You have worked on some massive shows. The Ultimate Fighter helped redefine sports TV, and Tiny House Nation kicked off a whole lifestyle trend. We all know there is a ton of intense pressure behind the scenes when producing shows like that. Can you share a memorable behind the scenes story? Maybe one of those high pressure moments that really stuck with you? Something that taught you a lesson about people, pressure, or problem solving in the middle of chaos?
Absolutely. There's two parts of that. I remember when I did The Ultimate Fighter for the UFC. That was 2004. I had just done a few more shows. I'd kind of gotten lucky. My first job was on Lord of the Rings as an intern back in 2000. That was my big break. They didn't big break meaning in Hollywood because they wouldn't let me be an intern because I didn't go to school. But about a week or so later, the guy I had drinks with, great guy, said, "Yeah, just kind of show up at the office and don't tell anybody you didn't go to college." So I was in the office and got a chance to listen to phone calls of Peter Jackson, Viggo Mortensen, taking notes when they were making the original Lord of the Rings. It was such an experience. And I had never even read the books at that point in my life. So it went from that into I got a job on a reality show because internships didn't pay. And everybody else that was an intern, had, they were getting, their parents were funding them and they were working three jobs. And so I realized I have to work three jobs. So I was working three jobs and then I got on a reality show and then kind of worked my way up. And my first big producing job was I got segment producer doing challenges was for this show called The Ultimate Fighter. And why I always reference this show a lot because there was a great team of executive producer and production company, of course, who built all that and made that. I was just a small piece of that, building it. Is sitting with Dana White one time after the show was almost complete and had to get it on television. And they had bought it for $2 million, and they were about 60 million in debt at this point, and they had to get it on television. And we're sitting at this restaurant with the executive producer and the line producer, who were very talented people. I remember just observing. And Dana was probably 35 at the time. I was 29. I think he's probably 5, 6 years older than me. And the Fertitta brothers were sitting in the corner, who really owned the UFC along with him. He owns a smaller percentage. And he said, "Yeah, I got to get this on television, or it's, they're going to kill me," jokingly pointing to the Fertitta brothers. And he said, "We're about 60 million in debt, and it just has to happen." Then the show was happening. There was a live fight, and the ratings blew up. The rest is history. But it was the first time I've seen such pressure to make something happen and people going all in. Fertitta's, Dana, all of them in the production company believed in it. They all went all in on this show. And a host of one of my TV shows told me, he goes, "Risk and reward follow the same path. Your risk and reward follow the same path. You have to take calculated risk. Entrepreneurs just don't take risk. They have a somewhat of a plan and it's calculated, but there is also some hope and wish with that too. But risk and reward follow the same path. Your risk is here, your reward's here. That's just the way it is." And I witnessed that in that moment. And just now I think the UFC is worth 10, $12 billion. And it's one of the biggest sports in the world, all because of a television show and a few people taking a risk. And that's the power of entrepreneurship. You don't need 100 people in your life. You need a few people in your life that really focus and do one thing really well together and believe in each other. And the world can change. Your life can change. You're trying to impact a few. You're not trying to impact the world. And when you think about that model, impact a few, not the world will come if it's the right. Now you have a lot of failures along the way, but that was a moment where I just said, that was a big gamble and it paid off. Same with like when I was as an intern on Lord of the Rings. I saw that all happen, and when they were making three movies all at the same time, it was a big gamble if they'd ever be successful or not. So yeah, you see it in life where you're just amazed at how things can change with the right idea and the right people.
In business, it's normal for ideas to face resistance or lack support early on. A lot of great ideas don't get immediate buy-in, but the most successful people find ways to push through that. How did you scale up when the backing wasn't there? And what helped you diversify or stay adaptable in those moments?
You have to. I remember several times sitting in LA thinking, "Oh, I should just go home," because the pressure was so much. And you think, if I give up now, maybe it's just going to be easier. I'll go back home and, I can just live a normal life. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's something in certain people. I call it being a 10 percenter. 10 percenters, and there's nothing wrong with being a 10 percenter or a 90 percenter. People love to put labels, and I'm putting my own here, but I just mean that there's a certain group of people that will push through uncomfortableness. I only have a certain level that I'll push through. Some people can push through a lot of uncomfortableness and do amazing things. You have the people, the Steve Jobs of the world, the Elon Musks, the, you know, Jeff Bezos, these people that can do massive entrepreneurial things and handle a lot of pressure. So everyone has a different level on how they handle that. But for me, it's actually doing the thing you're most afraid of. When you're afraid of something and you feel anxiety, that's actually probably the thing you're supposed to do. Because then you conquer it, you push through it, and it challenges you. But once you get out the other side, now you level up every time. And I remember doing a show for MTV, and the pressure from the lawyers would come on set. It was a martial arts competition show, not the UFC, but similar. And every day I would come home and I would sit in my chair, and I lived in this little garage apartment with a Guatemalan family in Los Angeles who were the sweetest people, helping me, didn't charge me much to live in that garage and allowed me to start my career. And I would come home and I was like, how do I handle this pressure from the attorneys, the lawyers? The stress of it was unbelievable. And then at the end of it, that show was over. I survived it. And I remember sitting there and I have an expression called concrete your heart. It doesn't mean concrete your emotions, but it means don't ever let this feeling happen again to you this way. How? You learn from it. You learn the power of negotiation. You learn the power of conversation, conflict resolvement. You have to self-educate yourself. So I started consuming a lot of books, business books, biographies. My whole 20s was just consuming books and learning from people that have been through the same struggles I was feeling at the time. And then you go through that and you realize, okay, it's all about doing hard things, facing fear, and overcoming the obstacles that are in front of you. It's one of my favorite animals is the bison, the American bison, the buffalo, if you've ever seen one. I'm an artist as well, a painter, and I painted one actually and gave it to a friend of mine bought it from me actually in Texas. And a bison is one of the only animals when a storm comes. The deer, the cow, the animals will run away as the storm is coming. The bison's a big, strong animal. It actually turns its head and it pushes into the storm. It goes into the problem. Why does it go into the problem? Because the bison knows if it goes into the problem, finds a tree line, finds a ridge, the storm will break over it faster and it'll get through it. But if you keep running away from the problem, the pain, the issue that you have, be it business communication, being shy, nervous, afraid, if you keep allowing those things to control you, that's fine. We all do it. But there comes a moment where you have a tipping point and you say no more, and you're the bison. You turn your head towards it and you get through it. So that's the beauty of life.
And from dreaming big ideas as a kid to now working across everything from entertainment to blue-collar businesses, space industry to defense, and with major consumer brands and content, that's a pretty wide range. How do you stay ahead of trends instead of just chasing hype? And what are you really looking for when you decide that's the next big thing worth your time and energy?
And it's the advice I always give to people, and I can't take it for myself in a lot of ways, is do one thing and do it really well. Be an engineer and be the best engineer. Be a doctor, be the best doctor. Be this, be this. But my personality type, but there's also, you got to know your personality type. There's the quote, jack of all trades is a master of none, but there's also a full quote of that is a jack of all trades is a master of none, but it's better than only being a master of one. So history is only legend retold. When we say things as society or people, it's all from the viewpoint or our bias or whatever, what we want people to think. So when people say, you can't be a generalist, you have to do one thing really well. True for certain people. That's my own advice to people. I'm a generalist. I am better when I am constantly talking and moving with a lot of people to figure things out. Now with that, if I would have stayed with one thing my whole life, maybe I'd have been more rich, successful. I'm blessed to have what I have. But I don't look at life as money as the marker. Money will come if you're doing the thing that you should. You get what you need, as long as you're not chasing the wrong things. So with that, when you focus on, the right people and the right businesses and figure out what direction you want to go, what are you looking for? What's your point? of life. And for me, working in a lot of things now in America's Industrial Renaissance, or we're doing some work in defense, podcast content, that's because television, my industry kind of went away. Non-scripted television, docu-reality went away. Now you got streaming. I had to pivot. Pivot is a word that we said at the top of this when you were doing your intro. Pivot's a big thing in people's lives these days. There's so much adaptation, there's so much changing, AI, all of these things. So all you can do is constantly seek people in your life, in your circle, and find opportunity with that. For me, to find the next thing, I also have an expression that says, don't chase what you can't catch. And I think I've said this to you before when we met previously. Don't chase what you can't catch. You can't catch a cheetah. Cheetah is the fastest animal on earth, and everyone tries to catch it, right? They try to catch the girl that they have a crush on but doesn't have a crush on them. They try to catch the business. They try to catch this, and they try. There's nothing wrong with trying. Like in sales, you have to follow up. You have to be aggressive. You have to have something of value, a service you offer. But there comes a point where your gut knows that you're chasing something and you're not being who you are. And then after you try 3 times, I call it the rule of 3, maybe you don't try to catch that cheetah anymore. Maybe you just take a big plate with a steak on it and you put it behind you and you forget about the cheetah. Don't chase it. Move on to something else. Move on to something else that follows your heart and your dreams and gets you excited, have passion for. And you forget about the cheetah. But life's funny. Then one day you hear a sound. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not. You turn around, there's the cheetah right next to you. That thing comes back to you. Not always, but you've already forgotten about it, so it's okay. So the point is, don't chase what you can't catch. Focus, yes, on one thing, but know your personality type. Really understand who you are. I understand I'm a generalist. I understand I do best when I try to impact people in many ways. It's like a pebble in a pond. It causes a ripple effect, and that's where I do best. I'm not one to just, for example, make a TV show anymore. So once you learn who you are, it kind of frees you to be what you are, and you stop chasing the things that everybody else tells you should chase.